Pandemonium Reigns.
Hello, friends and family. Week 2 action here with Pandemonium Reigns. I'm Dan. He's Mike. We've got Georgia and South Carolina on deck. We've got Kansas State, Missouri, and we're going to talk about LSU at Mississippi State. 3 games to discuss and throw at you this morning or wherever you find yourself. Thank you so much for tuning in. Obviously, your boys are in orange. Week 2 is one of those. Here's what's going to happen. I can tell you exactly. Week 3. Wow. Life is moving fast. Week 3.
Life happens.
Thank you for the correction. Thank you for not turning off this episode before you understood what week we're actually in. Appreciate it, y'all. Week 3. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to look at this slate and you're going to say, meh. But what's going to happen come Saturday is you're going to be texting one of your boys and be like, bro, turn it on X channel. Do you see what's going on? Because college football just never disappoints.
Amen,
never
brother.
disappoints.
Turn it on Peacock. We got Penn State, Illinois, get down to the wire.
Yeah. Peacock now hosting your Washington at Michigan State game. We're not going to talk about that one because it's too far west for our concerns. Here we go. Leading off deck, South Carolina at Georgia. Georgia minus 27.5. Over under 54.5. Little high, in my opinion. Vegas is doing a little bit of a reach, but as the saying goes, Vegas knows something that we don't. What do you think that is?
Man, I don't know what this one really gets me. I'll tell you that. This one really gets me. The over-under is literally just double what Georgia's favored to win by. I mean, 27.5, 54.5, put you 27 more on that spread, and you got it. I don't like South Carolina in this game. I don't know. There's a million reasons why I wouldn't bet this game. Number one being 27.5 points. They might be able to cover that. It just depends on how Georgia's offense comes out in week 3. Because it's not been Crisp replacing Stetson Bennett primarily yet. They've not used Brock Bowers a ton yet, probably because who needs to against Ball State and UT Martin? Probably because of those reasons. But again, they've not looked exactly crisp. They exploded in the second quarter against Ball State and ran that game up. It all started with a punt return touchdown from your 4'8" friend, Mr. Muse. Mm-hmm. So that's a big weapon for Georgia. He's a little guy with a ton of electricity in that frame. Mm-hmm. But again, million reasons why I wouldn't bet this game. If I had to go one way or the other, I would probably lean towards South Carolina covering that just because it's so large.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I could also see South Carolina being shut out again until, Georgia's JV team is in, like last year.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah. I think I'm most excited just to get a better picture of who Georgia is exactly.
Exactly. And I kind of want that. I think I know who South Carolina is, but I really want to know who Georgia is, especially when, you're getting into SEC play here. You've got it at home. Perfect way to start it if you're Georgia. I want to know who they are in that environment.
Yeah. I mean, and what is Sanford Stadium going to be like when, the point spread is as large as it is? And I'll lean with you on that. I'll take South Carolina to cover, but I also will not be surprised with the issues that South Carolina faced in week 1 and the O-line trouble. Georgia's, we're all convinced, right, that Georgia has a superior defensive line or defensive front as opposed to North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Who caused all kinds of havoc. What is this Georgia front 7? What is this Georgia front 4 going to do, right, against this porous South Carolina offensive line? How is Spencer Rattler going to perform in this game in Sanford? The guy did not have a great, week 1. Obviously turned things around a little bit come week 2. And now all of a sudden I can't find the game. Here we go. Oh, you know what the worst part about this game? Can I go ahead and tell you the worst part? Or do you want to take a shot and take a guess? You want to take a guess? I can tell you the worst part.
I don't actually know where you're at on that. So, yeah, you're going to have to tell me.
You don't know where I'm at on that? Well, I'll give you a hint.
The worst part of this game?
Yeah, kicks off at 3:30. There's your hint.
That's okay. I know exactly where it is then. Go ahead and hammer it home for the good people.
Yeah. This game is brought to you by CBS. Won't be turning that one on. Yeah, not going to do that. Anyway, back to Spencer Rattler. Just shy of 700 yards so far on the year. 3 scores, I believe, no picks. Yep, no picks. Doing okay statistically wise in the first 2 games, but ran into some issues, obviously, and like we've said, in game 1. But I'm way more interested in the quarterback play on the opposite side. Carson Beck. Just like who is Georgia, who's Carson Beck on the year? 44 for 61, 577 yards, 3 scores, and a pick. Who's Carson Beck going to be? Is he going to rise to the occasion? Is he going to be the dude going forward? Very curious to see what kind of product he's going to put on the field. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm highly intrigued. I want to. If I wish I could just take the CBS out of this game, because that would be a nice bridge to my 7:00 gap that I need to get to. If you know what I mean, Vols fans.
Yeah.
That would really, really do me a lot of good in knowing what happens in UT Florida is being able to watch this game. I just don't know how much Gary D I'll be able to handle. But yeah, I want to know about Beck. What kind of chemistry does he actually have with these receivers? You just gave us the numbers. They're not bad. 72.1 completion percentage, only 3 touchdowns. No big deal. They're not doing much against UT Martin and Ball State that they're probably going to be able to do, the rest of the year. Are they going to continue to split carries the way that they're doing? What's up with Dejon Edwards, for that matter? What's going on with him? And then with Bowers, and surely he does, but does Beck have the same chemistry, the same reliance upon Bowers that Stetson Bennett had for so long? It was only 2 years, but it's felt like 10 years already with just how dominant of a player Brock Bowers is. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I want to know those things. Does South Carolina have anything they can do defensively to, I guess, just to stymie Georgia for more than a few opening series? You know what I mean? Because how mad would you be if you bet Georgia to cover 27.5? And again, I could totally see this being a 24-27-0 outcome. That sounds good to play to Vegas's hands, but I could totally see it.
Yeah.
And just how furious are you if you put more than a couple dollars on Georgia covering 27.5 and that happens?
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. My question that I want to ask is, what does South Carolina have to do in order to pull this upset? And I just don't know that you have the Jimmies and the Joes. You can do some X's and O's things, but in order to beat a team like Georgia, you're going to have to beat them on the perimeter, beat them in one-on-one matchups. Xavier Leggett is a really nice, weapon for the Gamecocks.
Yeah.
But what do you have to do? I think you're going to have to move the pocket. They're going to have to throw some. I don't mean misdirection. I don't mean counter stuff, because I think Georgia's just going to meet you at the point of attack. I don't think that stuff is going to work. You're going to have to move the pocket and so a lot of rollouts. If Georgia comes out uber aggressive, screens, draws, stuff like that. But I think most importantly, what you're going to have to do is win the 50-50 balls. And that's something that Xavier Leggett can do, right? I like that.
Yeah.
But which raises the question, where's Juice Wells?
Yeah.
1 catch on the year, 5 yards on the year. Where's this guy at?
Yeah. I mean, and you just stole that right up. That was the next question I was going to hit you with. Where's he been? Where's he at? Is he been hampered? Is he good to go? You know what I mean? You bring in, again, we've talked about this for so long, going back to Jaheim Bell not being utilized properly there. Will they do more with Trey Knox than his 3 for 29 on the year with a long of 15? Will they try to do more with that? And, I think you need to find ways to exploit the middle of the field if and when you can. It's just good luck against the speed of Georgia that just collapses and vacuums and sucks up every ounce of life that an offense has shown over the past few years, not just their title years. So what can you do? I'm right there with you. I don't have many ideas for what they could try. Rattler's been really clean with the ball, like you mentioned, with the touchdowns and 0 interceptions, but he's been beat to death to the tune of 9 sacks already on the year.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't take 5 or 6 sacks come Saturday, that's almost a win, as lame as that sounds, for South Carolina.
For sure. I just fully expect for Georgia to take all the wind out of any South Carolina sail by the time the game is over come Saturday night. Nonetheless, Gamecocks at the Dogs, 3:30 CBS. You heard it from the both of us. We're going to take Georgia to win, but we're going to take South Carolina to cover. Wildcats of Kansas State headed to Columbia, Missouri along with the late kick and Josh Pate, who are going to be there, and the Missouri Tigers, over under 47.5. Kansas State minus 3.5. The ESPN matchup predictor has got K-State at 68.6, putting Mizzou at 31.4. And I just cannot take my eyes off the 4-point win over Middle Tennessee. But as you know, Middle Tennessee went into Coral Gables last year and broke the U over their knee. So not a bad squad, but I just want to lead off with this as we begin this conversation. If Mizzou goes out and lays an egg, which is highly probable.
Yeah.
How much longer is Elia, whatever his name is, in Columbia?
Boy. I mean, hear me out. I think this is an understandable. Okay, let me just clear the air real quick before I answer your question. Kansas State's winning this game. Kansas State is covering. They're winning by 2 touchdowns plus. Is my take. That's my take on the game. Probably taking the over because their offenses look much better than Missouri's, and that's a pretty low number.
For sure.
To get back to your question, okay, this would be an understandable loss and that's hard to say if you're an athletic director or if you're a super high-level competitor like an SEC head coach should be. But this Kansas State team was fantastic a year ago. They're averaging in the low 40s offensively to start the year. Their defense looks pretty solid. They got a little lazy, I think, against Troy for a few minutes of that game and ran away with it in the end. Mm-hmm. But if you're Missouri, you're talking about hosting Memphis, traveling to Missouri, and then you host LSU. I think if you're Eli and you value this job, you're in it for more than the potential buyout at the end of the tunnel, then this is a very important game because you can't let the losses stack up in the way that they've done. You can't just be another 500 team if you really value this job and this is where you want to be long term, because sure, they should be able to go to Nashville and win. That could be a shootout because Vanderbilt's done a really nice job of getting the ball to Mr. Shepard and him being in the end zone when he catches it. But for Missouri to beat LSU at home, that seems insurmountable to me. Back that up with a trip to Kentucky, and then you host South Carolina, and you see how this could really unravel for Eli. So this win would be absolutely massive for him. I don't see any path that it happens. And I don't think this is one that'll get him on the brim of the hot seat just yet. But again, it's just right there on the edge of it. If they don't find wins in October, early November, through the rest of the schedule.
Yeah, I mean, a win over a top 15 team, right, is going to bode well. A team that competed in the Sugar Bowl, showed up in the Sugar Bowl last year. You get what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
However, if you don't, I think if you lose, I think it's more about how you lose. Right?
Exactly.
If you go out and you fight, okay, it's one thing. If you go out and you lay an egg and Kansas State runs the ball all over you, and that's the thing that concerns me with a school like Kansas State. That's not a team that I want to see on Tennessee's schedule, along with the Utahs of the world and those guys. They are under-recruited but so well coached, and so they play with a chip on the shoulder. They do all the little things right. Not a school that I want to play. If Missouri can find this win, you got to like the trajectory of Mizzou here on out, because I think you pointed it out. They're going to host Memphis after this and probably go get a win in Nashville, right? And then you can sit at 4-0. Yeah, then you can sit at 4-0 before you host LSU, and that's just not going to go well. At least, that's my prediction from at this point.
Yeah.
But just through the eyes of Kansas State, just for a minute, we both like Kansas State in this game. We haven't picked the over or the under yet. But, well, you did. You said you picked Kansas State outright. Well, my listening skills are on point today.
All good.
Kansas State loses this game. Kansas State wins this game. What's the – does it affect the trajectory of the program, or is it if they get this win, okay, well, we did what we were supposed to do, but if they lose – let's talk about that. Yeah. If they lose this game, right, what's the perspective of Kansas State at that point?
Well, that really makes me worry about them because, again, just looking right down the line, they're going to host UCF, and they're going to have to contain John Reese Plumlee just a week after this game.
Yeah.
But then you get into the heart of Big 12 play with Oklahoma State on the road, Texas Tech on the road, and then hosting TCU as your next home game. Not to mention that you've got Texas down the line. Not to mention, who's going to be last year's TCU? Is the Big 12 going to have someone like that you're going to have to contend with? it also very well could be Kansas State. Not that they're going to go make the playoff for the national championship game, but it's going to get a lot tougher. So again, I worry about the makeup of that team. Could they sustain and bounce back from a loss like this against frankly, a team that you should go keep at arm's length? You should just go in there and just flex on them, I think, is what you should do.
Absolutely.
You've got the quarterback advantage. You had Deuce Vaughn, who was about 2 foot tall last year running the football, and you've got a 6'1" guy and a 5'10" bruiser doing it this year, not to mention Will Howard at quarterback, who can run the heck out of the ball.
Yeah.
So I just worry about them and their ability to bounce back through the conference slate as it goes, with a couple of road games coming up after UCF at home, what it would mean for them in that regard. Because I think, and sure, Missouri can use this to their advantage, but everyone that looks at this game and considers the last few years is going to say Kansas State, and they cover by probably a pretty large margin.
Yeah, for sure. If I'm Mizzou, I'll just end this way. If I'm Mizzou, I'm figuring out all kinds of diverse ways to get Luther Burden the ball.
Yeah, you got to do those things because they've got some nice little talent, and it's not going to be enough talent to get you in the top 10 or top 5 certainly of a recruiting ranking. But Luther Burden was from close by. You've got guys in this class. Ryan Wingo is close by that you have to impress enough to make that decision for more than just the NIL dollars in high school, that they can make money now as a commit to the school. You've got to find ways to identify with those guys and show why they should be a Tiger for longer than just the dollars that they can get in high school, not to mention when they're freshmen and, so on. Because to this point, and it's gotten a little better, but it got off to a pretty rough start with Luther Burden. So they can't have that happening if they want to be a serious program right now, or if Drinkwitz, again, really just wants to be in this job long term. They can't keep having those rough starts and having that drama.
Yeah, well, Luther Burden, I mean, threw his name out again, 15 catches on the year, 213 yards, 1 score. I would like to see his touchdown numbers go up if you're looking to win games, right, as a program. Yeah. You're just going to be relying on him a lot. And I don't know that you can be carried by a receiver by that much. Nonetheless, we're both going to take Kansas State to win this game outright. 47.5, though, is the over-under. What are you taking?
I want to push the over here. I feel really risky doing it just because I feel like if either team could muddy this game up, Missouri doing it via, extending drives and slow developing plays that frankly drain the clock and things like that. And Kansas State, I know, is so capable of, or have been so capable of running the ball, which again would just keep that clock turning. But again, I'm going to take the risk and I'm going to push the over because it's fairly low, 47.5, correct?
Yep.
I mean, that's just get to 24 and then, you're right there halfway. So I think that should be attainable. Even though we didn't see it from Missouri against MTSU and early in their schedule, I'm gonna take my chances with the over there.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna take the over as well. Looking forward to this one. It is some vintage Big 12 football. Yes. A renewed rivalry, so to speak. Give me more of that. Nonetheless, we're taking the Wildcats to go into Columbia and win this game outright. LSU Bayou Bengals traveling to Cowtown, known as Starkville, take on the Mississippi State Bulldogs. I would love to rebrand Mississippi State as the Mississippi State Mud Dogs, but they've yet to respond to my email. So here we are, Mississippi State Bulldogs hosting the Tigers. This is going to be interesting. 12 o'clock kickoff, 11 o'clock Central Time on ESPN. Here we go. LSU, 9.5-point favorites. Over under is 54.5. Seems mighty high to me.
Yeah. Yes, it does, because the thing that could influence my decision, which we'll see in a minute, is, again, the fact that this is at Mississippi State. And if we haven't said it 100 times on this podcast yet, I'm concerned for college teams on the road. Looking at you, LSU in this case, on the road.
Yeah.
Really wonder how their offense went buck wild against Grambling, or Louisiana's version of the Sisters of the Poor and Blind. Yet again, they went buck wild. They did their best to flush out the loss to FSU from week 1. But again, I worry about college teams on the road. There's just so many examples of losing games that were so winnable. We don't have to beat the horse quite into the ground any further.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's quite a high number. All that to say, quite a high number. Will Rogers, he's looked pretty strong so far this season with the newness, mainly not the competition level. That was a nice win that they pulled out against Arizona.
Yeah.
But yeah, what you thinking about this game?
I don't know what I'm thinking about this game. I'm actually just really looking forward to it, looking forward to having it on my big TV. I'm interested to see Will Rogers for 60 minutes, though. Not a lot of national attention just yet, but this is going to be it for him. We've mentioned a lot in the offseason that, especially myself, that I think it's going to be a down year for him just because of total schematic changes, turning his back to the defenses, play action, stuff like that. That Mike Leach offense, RIP to that guy, to that man, to that pirate, total different offense, right?
Yeah.
So, turning your back was just something you're never going to do. I like the Mississippi State ground game as well. I like this Marks kid. 43 carries, 250 yards, 3 scores. I think that if you're Mississippi State and you're going to try to win this game, you need to be incredibly balanced, and you need to be consistent in putting long drives together. LSU is going to score; they're going to find points. It's what Brian Kelly does. He puts drives together. He puts together solid teams for one. We know what kind of quarterback Jaden Daniels is. We know what kind of defense LSU has. Mississippi State, man, you're gonna have to put drives together. If you fail to put drives together, I mean, this is a loss in any regard, right?
Absolutely.
With that said, I've kind of just stumbled on my words here. As I think about this, that 9.5 for LSU feels a little low.
Okay. I hear you, but I'm gonna have to go the other direction. Again, all the things of this being on the road, of Mississippi State's running game looking better than I expected. JoJo Marks, I'm just giving him that name right now, leading the conference in rushing yards. I mean, things we didn't expect to see. Arizona's not like going out and playing Texas or Wisconsin. It's not that level of brand, but they're on the rise as of late. So that was a nice win. You had to have it. If you're the new staff, Arnett and those guys down there. And again, I like the balance so far with mainly Will Rogers' accuracy and still completing the passes that he was before, despite now being a lot tougher. My concern is actually now more than ever going to be him turning his back to the defense, because he's not yet seen Mason Smith. Who knows how LSU is going to use Harold Perkins Jr. He's only got 6 tackles on the year, which is just egregious. I mean, it's what it is. So who knows how he's going to face that level of guy coming off the edge or perhaps blowing up the middle of his offensive line. That's my one concern. But again, clock's going to run because Mississippi State's running the ball. If he takes a sack, clock's going to run. You know what I mean? I think I'm going to ride Mississippi State to keep it right around that number and cover, but LSU to win the game, of course.
You're going to take Mississippi State to cover here.
I am. I feel like a crazy person, but I am going to do it.
I'll tell you what. I really like Will Arnett. Really like Arnett. Love their identity they've developed in 2 games in a defense. Well, even under the Mike Leach era, he seems very tense. But that post game interview with Cole Kubelik, I don't know if you caught that. He seems like a great guy that you would want to play for.
He really does.
He really, really does. Too much change though for me with this Mississippi State staff and schematics and stuff like that. I'm going to disagree. I'm going to take LSU to win. I'm going to take LSU to cover. I could see something like a 35-17 win, something like that.
Definitely, even though I'm picking Mississippi State to cover, totally see where you're coming from. It could totally fall that way, because just think if a turnover or anything goes LSU's direction, who knows how the battle will unfold. But I mean, anything that goes in their favor, you expect them to take their shots, get Daniels on the ground if they need to get the ball in the end zone, because that's what Brian Kelly does. He's a sound coach, and he's done this well for a really long time at this point. I do want to pose one thing to you before we wrap up. And of course, if you got anything else, hit me with it. But imagine the SEC West if Texas has already taken down Alabama, so we have questions about Alabama, and Mississippi State takes down LSU in week 3. Imagine the SEC West.
I'm smiling real hard. I like the way that sounds. Power's shifting to the East. I'm down, but obviously the divisions are gone after this year.
Yeah.
What a narrative that would be. I mean,
right?
I forget Brandon. Gosh, his name escapes me. Barstool
Walker.
Yeah, Brandon Walker, who not my favorite, but basically calling schools like Clemson and Alabama no longer elite, that they have fallen. But I'd love the direction of college football if Mississippi State gets this win.
Absolutely.
I just think
that
it's
would
too
be tasty.
Oh, for sure. But I do think it's just too much for the Mud Dogs. I'm going to call them that anyway. Too much for Mississippi State to overcome. We both have LSU winning. You've got Mississippi State covering. I've got LSU covering. It's going to be one heck, at least we hope, of a game in Starkville come Saturday. Nonetheless, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, for tuning in with us, for letting us tickle your ears. We just love doing this with you guys so much. We're continuing to gain traction and grow. So we love you and appreciate you for that. Make sure you, again, like and subscribe. I'm Dan. He's Mike. This is Pandemonium Reigns. God bless. Go Balls.
GBO.
Pandemonium Reigns.